Hi, everybody. Good evening. Thanks for taking time out of your day to join us tonight. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Brenda Moynihan, and I'm the Director of Marketing and Outreach here at the Kensington Assisted Living in White Plains. Tonight's presentation is Let's Talk Assisted Living, Part 2, The Move, How to Get Organized and Sell the Home. Before I introduce our speakers, I'd like to give you some information about the Kensington. The Kensington is an enhanced assisted living, and we're located again in White Plains, New York. We are committed to providing outstanding care every day with the full spectrum of clinical support, including caring for those with Alzheimer's and additional dementias. We encourage independence and confidence and focus on making each individual feel important. Our promise is to love and care for your family as we do our own. If you'd like some information about our community, please call us at 914-390-0080 or go to our website at www.thekensingtonwhiteplains.com. There'll be a Q&A at the end of the presentation, so please feel free to type in your questions in the chat box at the bottom or top of your Zoom screen. And all of the attendees tonight will receive a post-event email containing contact information of our speakers. Plus, at the very end, we will put up a slide that will have that information on there too. So please join me in welcoming our speakers for this evening, Joanne Riley and Laura Lewis. And let me read you some information about them. Joanne Riley is a licensed associate real estate broker at Coldwell Banker. Joanne educates her clients with the essential tools necessary to purchase and or sell their home. She has ranked top 50 agents at Coldwell Banker Westchester 2014 through 2020, plus consistent top producer and top 6% realtors for 2020. Joanne is a graduate of Pace University for Realtor License and is a senior real estate specialist. Accredited buyer's representative, along with many additional realtor accreditations. Welcome, Joanne. Laura Lewis. Laura graduated from Purchase College and the Benjamin N. Cardozo School of Law. She has accumulated 25 years experience assisting individuals and nonprofit organizations to achieve their management and growth objectives. Laura founded Spot Organizing, named after her childhood hero, Mary Poppins, who loved to organize. Laura's goal is to bring her organizational change management experience to others. She works with those who need assistance preparing to downsize, organize the home or office, closing estates, and much, much more. So on this beautiful summer evening, I want to welcome the speakers. Laura, it's all you.
Hi, good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for such a lovely introduction. I want to first say a big thank you and shout out to Brenda, who's organized everything so splendidly, and to the Kensington White Plains for hosting us tonight. It's wonderful to be here, and I'm excited to spread the joy that comes from living in a well-organized space. But as you can see from the boxes behind me, I'm practicing what I preach. My entire home is in boxes in preparation for construction. So moving on to your moving and packing, getting ready to right size your home takes a little planning and effort, but the results are so worth it. So in the words of Julie Andrews, let's start at the very beginning. This, by the way, is Elsa from Frozen, and her motto is let it go. So I think this says so much, and it will be the theme of my talk this evening. This is a perfect opportunity to create a legacy with your things. Anytime you move or downsize, you can think about that legacy. When somebody walks into your home, our photos, the art on our walls, our furniture and trinkets say something about us. And do our things really express who we are and what we care about today, or who we were when we bought them, often decades ago? So if you think of your stuff as a means to express who you are, then it really will be a lot easier to do as Elsa says and let it go. Next slide. What are the typical reasons we own too much stuff? It belonged to somebody very important to you who may have passed on, and you can't bear to let it go because it will be like letting go of their memory. But I tell my clients that memories exist in the heart and the head and not in inanimate objects. Next slide, please. These are valuable pieces of silverware. And so perhaps we hold on to things because we think they're worth a lot. Next slide, please. Well, you've held on to it for this long. Why part with it now? Next slide, please. So here's some tips. Tip number 1, start early and pace yourself. Number 1 rule, don't procrastinate. Right sizing can feel like an overwhelming task. And if you leave it all to the last minute, it will be just that. So try to start planning early. The sooner the better, but try to give yourself at least 3 months. So there are some methods for organizing. Perhaps you've heard of some of them. There's the famous Marie Kondo, her KonMari method. If it doesn't bring you joy, let it go. The 4-box method. Everything must fit into one of 4 metaphorical boxes. Keep, sell, consign, donate, and trash. A 3rd method is 1 a day method. Let go of 1 item per day or the number of items corresponding with the days of the week of the month. So if it's the 2nd day of the week, then let go 2 things that day. If you're really leaving it to the last minute and it's the 27th day of the month and you're using that method, you would get rid of 27 things that day. The last method is the closet hanger method, which essentially means you go to your closet, you turn all the hangers away from you. And then as you wear something, when you put it back in the closet, you turn the hanger towards you. And that way, at the end of 6 months, all the hangers that are pointing away from you would be things that you haven't worn and perhaps you don't really need them. Next slide. Tip number 2, 1 room at a time, 1 space at a time. Organizing your entire home can be really daunting. So think of it, break it down into rooms or spaces. And even then, if you have a large attic, break the attic into 4 quadrants so that you're never feeling like it's just going to be too much. And then think of smaller spaces like your junk drawer or the place where you keep your CDs, DVDs, and tapes, or all of those shoes that you've accumulated and some may need to say bye-bye, or dresser drawers or plastic containers. Do they all have lids and do you really need them all? So if you store the same kind of thing in multiple places, it's really helpful to bring them all together into one room. You would be amazed at how many duplicates you actually own. Next slide, please. Tip number 3 is to measure. Measure your new space and measure your furniture. Take the time to measure your existing furniture. Some things are a little more complicated to measure. So if you own a recliner, don't forget to count the additional room it will take when the back tilts or the legs extend, so you know how much room to leave for a coffee table, for example. And once you've chosen your next home, measure the rooms carefully, not only the square footage, but the spaces between different doors. And then ask yourself, will that small space between the door to the room and the door to the closet, would that accommodate a piece of artwork or a small table? And this is a very good time when you're measuring your furniture to think about furniture with multiple sizes, like a gate leg table that can seat 1 or 2, or open up and seat 4 for a game of cards, or 6 even for dinner or a snack. Or furniture that has multiple uses, like an ottoman that can also offer you storage. Next slide, please. Tip number 4, examine your new lifestyle. What are the reasons for moving? When you're thinking about your new space, that's a really big question. Why am I moving? What opportunities does right sizing or downsizing offer you? Does your new place offer interesting talks or classes like the Kensington does? Will new hobbies take up space in your new home? If you like to paint, is there an art studio? Will you need all of your art supplies if your new home is going to provide them for you? Perhaps you could donate them to a needy school. Or if there's an on-site gym, it's probably time to give away your weights and your exercise equipment. And if you need a little more motivation, think about what excites you about moving to a new home. And maybe what's the first thing you want to do when you move there? What are you really looking forward to happening in your new place? Next slide, please. This is the proverbial junk drawer, and you can ask yourself always, will I need this in my new home? Or the drawer, otherwise known as it may come in useful someday. And there are some things you might want to take with you, like the surge protector, but you really don't need the transformer from the video VCR machine that you had 5 VCR machines ago. All those sorts of things can get tossed away. Next slide, please. If you can, donate them appropriately so they don't pollute the environment. That's the local municipal authority will know and instruct you on where to dispose of them. Then it's sort of how to decide what to keep. And again, if you remember the hanger method, have you used it in the last 6 months? Does it have sentimental value like the top hat? Like Marie Kondo, does it make me happy? Does it give you joy? And will it fit in my new home? These are all questions that can be helpful when deciding whether to keep something or put it in the other 3 boxes. Tip number 5, really make sure that you establish clear ground rules. This is not a time for cheating. Those 4 bins, once again, are you're going to keep something, you're going to sell, consign, or donate something, trash or recycle something, and the last one is transfer, pass it down, or memorialize it. And I'm going to go through those a little bit at a time. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. This is tip number 6, transfer sentimental items. Post-it party. Sometimes our friends and loved ones let us know that there's something of ours that they've always liked, and so transferring such an object is easy. But there's also the time when something was purchased at a meaningful moment with a loved one, say while on vacation or on a day out together. Offer it to that person first. But the reality is that most of us live in homes full of a lifetime's worth of treasures. So my favorite solution is to buy a rainbow pack of Post-it notes. And then you invite your loved ones to a Post-it party, and you assign each person their own color, and you invite them to go around your home and put a Post-it on anything that they would like. One heads up, if more than one person likes something, don't get involved. Encourage them to barter amongst themselves, and you stay out of it and let everybody else make the decisions for you. Next slide, please. Rule number 7, sell or donate. Online, there are several sources such as ThreadUp, Poshmark, and The Real Real. And I really recommend using them. You can go online, register, and they will send you a large bag, and it will be pre-postage paid, and it will be addressed to them. And you can put in everything that you would like to sell. And they will try and consign it for you. They'll give it each piece a price, and you can check it out online. And then if it doesn't sell, they will donate it to the charity that you select on their website. Then locally, there are lots of different consignment stores. I'm thinking of Maisie's in Scarsdale, Handbags and More in Scarsdale, and the Golden Shoestring. And you can check out all of these stores. There's so many of them throughout our county. And you can see some of them have charities in mind, like there's one in Rye that does that. Perhaps you live north of White Plains. You might want to go to places near Mount Kisco and Chappaqua. But it's pretty easy to find. You can check them out and see what kind of merchandise they're selling, where you would be a good fit. And if not, just give them a phone call. I think it's a very worthwhile thing to do. Next slide, please. Rule number 7 continued, you could donate. So furniture, Big Brothers and Sisters of the Vietnam veterans, Habitat for Humanity, and the Furniture Share House. They're based, by the way, at Westchester County Airport. They all take gently used furniture, not things that have huge chips or scratches, but gently used furniture. And people who've experienced hardship, like being in a fire or a flood, or a new immigrant who's starting a new home, or a college graduate who's starting their first home, they can go there and pick up your furniture, usually for free, and start themselves in their new homes. Another use for the furniture actually is kids coming out of foster care. That's a very good use. And then linens and towels. Most of the charity shops don't want linens and towels, but the pet shelters do. And I really, every time I go to a pet shelter with bedding and towels, they're very grateful. The supply of animals never ends. Shoes. I'm a huge fan of Soles for Souls, which is through Zappos and which is owned by Amazon. And this is not consignment, this is donation, but they too, if you register online, they'll send you a large bag capable of holding 40 pairs of shoes. It will be postage paid, it will be pre-addressed, and you can send them all those shoes and they will go to people who have no shoes. Children's clothing, I'm a big fan of Kids Closet, but there are several others in the Westchester area, but I know that Kids Closet is a very well-run organization. And then adult clothing, if you have, nice dresses, smart business type dresses, or even suits, Dress for Success in Manhattan and First Source Referral Center in New Rochelle will take your suits and use them for women, donate them to women who are re-entering the workforce. That's a really good use of unwanted clothing. Next slide, please. Rule number 7 continued, trash or recycle. So I'm a great believer in making life easy for yourself. Put all the items that you wish to donate or trash into 2 separate piles, and then hire a man with a van, hopefully with a nice smile, and ask him and his team to take your unwanted items to the charity shop, or if the items have no further use, to the dump. They'll be happy to do this by the hour. They can also, some of them charge by the size of the truck. So you might take up the whole truck, half the truck, depends on the size of their truck, and it depends on the size of how much stuff you have. And although the tax laws have changed, it may still be worth your while to ask for a donation receipt from the receiving organization, and the drivers will do that for you and bring it back or send it to you in the mail. Next slide, please. This is rule number 8, which is digitize. The picture is of Rod Stewart's album in the 70s, Every Picture Tells a Story. And I'm a big believer in an object's value is determined by the legacy you create when using it. It's not really the object. It's the legacy that you create when you're using it. When you're baking muffins with your grandchild, is the muffin tin of really great value? not so much, although they might want to use it. It's really the memory of having baked the muffins with you that I think speaks to the next generation and speaks to your legacy. So how do we go about digitizing, repurposing, memorializing all of our things? So I think there are several ways to do it. One way, memorializing. So capture the things that won't fit into your new space by digitizing them. Take a photo, and if it's something really special, upload the photo or ask somebody to help you upload your photo to a digital frame. Nowadays, those frames can take a tremendous number of pictures, and then you can set them down on your coffee table or your bedside table, and they will continually revolve if you choose that setting to go through all of your favorite photos. You could take a photo of your favorite tea set if you're not going to take that to your new home before you donate it so someone else can use it. I know that so many of my clients have boxes and boxes and boxes of photographs accumulated over a lifetime. My recommendation for those is literally plan ahead 1 hour a day and just go through them and ask yourself, how long is it since you last looked at this photo? It's kind of nice to know it's in the closet, but if you haven't looked at it for 10 years, a decade, is this something that you really want to take with you? And if not, can you just digitize it? And then it can be filed on a thumb drive this big and can be inserted into any computer when anybody wants to look at them. I do think of photographs as a wonderful way to create a legacy for the next generation. So I always recommend to my clients that when you're thinking about discarding photographs, think about keeping at least one photograph of each person in the family tree so that everybody in future generations will know what somebody looked like. Things I might give away are pictures of people that maybe came to your wedding or came to your parents' wedding and you have no idea who they are, and the next generation won't know who they are, so they don't have meaning anymore. And I think those ones are pretty safe to discard. The picture on this slide, the next slide please, is a picture of a young woman on a quilt. And this quilt is actually made up of favorite t-shirts. And the idea is, again, that you register online and you basically cut the front of your favorite t-shirt so you get the message or the memory of what the t-shirt represents. And then you send it to this company and they will turn it into a beautiful quilt or a blanket for you. And then you can either choose to keep yourself warm and snug in your new home, or give it to somebody who's going off to college that you love, or a recent college grad, whatever. But it's a really, or you could even hang it on the wall if you choose to. But it's a really, really nice way to repurpose something that meant a great deal to you and you accumulate it over time. Next slide, please. Rule number 10, bring in help when needed. There's a myriad of experts out there to help you. Organizers like me can really help simplify the process. A good organizer will ask you good questions to really learn about you. What makes you happy? What makes you tick? What is it that you want to get out of your new home? What are your hopes and dreams for your new place? And they can end up saving you a lot of time and energy. Good organizers will connect you to valued professionals like reputable moving companies, which offer packing services and storage facilities. If you own things that have high market value, an organizer can connect you with big and small auction houses and firms that specialize in estate sales. If you don't want to have an estate sale in your home, some estate sale organizers will pick up your things and take them to another person's home, but your things will be specially coded, so they make sure that the proceeds of the sale come back to you. And most importantly, organizers frequently work with the best real estate agents, like my co-panelist tonight, Joanne Riley. A really good realtor like Joanne is truly worth their weight in gold. They too come with a myriad of connections and referrals. And even for those who plan ahead, the pace of your real estate sale will set the pace for your organizing efforts. But remember that an organized home, a home full of clean surfaces and open spaces, is more attractive and sells more quickly than one full of clutter. Next slide, please. And then the slide after that too. The takeaways. Use your stuff to create the legacy you wish to leave behind. Loved ones will not have room for all of your treasures. Ask them what they want. Use the post-it party technique. Find ways now to donate, consign, and auction what they don't want. And use some of the rest to ensure that you define your legacy rather than leaving a legacy that's a burden of your unwanted treasures. I really think that's a very important thing to remember when you're struggling with, shall I give it away or shan't I give it away? And that's it. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you. Thank you. We're just going to hold off on the questions, Laura, because I want Joanne to be able to present. But I do have questions for you. We're going to hold off on that. And Joanne, I know that you're here.
Hi, Brenda.
Hi.
Hi. Thank you for having me here.
Sure.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming tonight and getting some great tips from Laura. We've learned a lot about how to get rid of your stuff and the proper ways to move it along. But I want to give you some tips on dressing your home for success. So selling your home is really an overwhelming process. So I just want you to find out and learn a little more information on how to minimize stress. Next slide, please. Next slide. So here are some tips on the getting ready stage. So it's really important to kind of walk around your home, get a pad, and really look into the different things that you see going on. If you find any dripping faucets outside, inside, any shower heads that are leaking, pay special attention to that. Especially if there's any water in the basement. Just go in some corners in the basement, make sure that you find nothing leaking, because that tends to lead to mold, or it just alarms a lot of buyers. If you have a very damp basement, be sure to use a dehumidifier, which is really helpful. I just had a home that I was selling, and I had the buyer, and the home just smelled very moist, and come to find out, the seller just did not want to run the dehumidifier. So he probably turned away a lot of buyers. Make sure all your appliances are in working order. If for some reason there is an appliance that is just not going to be fixed because it's too old, or you're just not going to get it fixed, make sure you tell the realtor that so they can disclose that, this dishwasher isn't working. So there's no issues when it comes to the sale. It's smart to have your furnace and AC serviced yearly. Of course, with oil, that's much more, they do that all the time. With the oil. Gas, you don't really have it serviced as much, but it's really important to have that done. Fix any buckled carpets, because that's also a tripping hazard for those who come through the home. Address any pet and smoke odors. It's really important to make sure that you have the home aired out. You might want to have it deep cleaned if you were getting ready to sell the home and you have a pet. It's really important to do that. The most important thing with staging is your curb appeal. Make sure you have some colorful flowers outside, because first impressions is really important. Buyers sometimes drive up to the home and they don't realize how beautiful the home is inside. And they pull up and sometimes they look and they say, I didn't even want to go in. And they minimize the opportunity for the buyers to come in and see how really nice their home is. So it's inviting if you have a nice curb appeal. Reseal a worn or stained driveway that always gives it a fresh appeal, which is really nice. Trim some landscaping and lawn, if you have any bushes to be trimmed down, which is really, really nice and, kind of gives it the finishing touches. Start to clean out the attic and basement. And again, Laura had some great tips there. So definitely, you can always refer to her for some other different tips for cleaning it out, which is really great and helpful. Furnace rooms, this is so important. Don't leave furnace rooms as a storage room. Remember, when buyers are coming through the home, they have at least three to four people that they're walking through with, so they can't all fit in the furnace room together. And it's just really it's not supposed to be a storage room. So it's important to keep it cleaned out. Basement stairs cleared. Many times there's basements that have steep stairs, very little handrail, and they're cluttered and we can't get down the stairs and it's a tripping hazard. And always remove items off the floor. Give it an open feel, and it's less is more, is what they say in staging. Next slide, please. It's really important if you're thinking of selling to locate all your documents and have them ready. Your deed, which you can probably find some of this information if you've had your last closing documents. Your survey is probably in there. If you have any certificate of occupancies that you've done any work over the years, put them all together. If you have an old appraisal, HOA documents. If you're selling a condo or a co-op, you should have the bylaws, the prospectus, the last 2 years of financial statements, because the attorneys need that. If you're in a co-op, a stock certificate is helpful. Any minutes from any meetings is very helpful. Receipts for any capital improvements to show what you've done in the home is very helpful. Tax statements for anything. Utility bills, because a lot of times the buyers are going to want to know what it costs for your gas and your electric, so they can make sure that they can afford the same. Manuals and warranties for any of your products. It's smart to put it all together. And what I would do is make one big binder and have it all in there. So when you're ready to sell, you can just hand this over. Sometimes the sellers will get their lawn maintenance guy, if they have that, or their whoever takes care of the furnace. They make a list with their names and the phone numbers of anybody who's maintaining the home, the landscaper. So this way, they're the vendors that know the home best. So they just hand that over to the new buyer. So that's pretty helpful for them. Next slide, please. Okay, so helpful ideas. Again, I think Laura touched a little bit on this. Identify the furniture that you want to take and keep for you, so you know for your new space of what you're talking about, to try to just think about where you're going. Clean out any closets. Buyers love to make sure that they have a lot of storage. And a lot of times there's not enough closet space for today's buyers. So make sure you clean them out. Clean your windows is always, again, that's part of the curb appeal. It gets it kind of sparkling. It just kind of puts the final touches on it. Replace old or missing light bulbs. I just had a listing where it was a tutor and they had, the lights were missing in the hallway and the bulbs must have been out. And I kept getting the feedback that it was a dark home. Come to realize that the hallway, every time they flipped the switch, the lights never went on. So it just kind of appeared very dark in the home. Depersonalized photos and certifications. That's a big one. A lot of buyers come in and they get focused on who owns the home, and they're looking at the pictures or the certifications because they want to find out about the seller. and they're not paying any attention to the home. And when we leave, I said, what did you think of that beautiful fireplace? They said, it had a fireplace. So it's good to declutter that type of depersonalize. What you also can do is hire an inspector for a pre-inspection to learn about any issues that are coming up. Maybe you can have them fixed, or you can disclose that, hey, this isn't working. But it's nice to know about that and not be surprised upon your home inspection when the buyer does it. It gives you a heads up. It's good to clear your countertops in your kitchens and bathrooms to show that you have ample space. Recaulk tubs and sinks, which is great. It kind of, again, gives the fresh look in the bathroom. When the buyers open the shower doors or the curtains, they don't want to see the molded caulk. It just kind of appears, it's just not clean. Have your fireplace chimney cleaned, and even clean the fireplace itself. Sometimes around the fireplace, there's some black soot, or inside the fireplace, you've just had a fire. Try to keep it as clean as you could. Stage furniture facing the fireplace. A lot of times, even if you're you have furniture that's that you're not facing the fireplace. I have a listing like that now. We changed the dynamics of the room to give the buyer a better picture, because they don't have a vision of how the room will look with their furniture in there. So if you change the look of the room, it does a big difference for them to understand, oh, well, we can put our furniture like that. And it appears sometimes to make the room look bigger. Next slide, please. Bring in the light. It is really important today. Years ago, we used to have a lot of curtains on the windows. Today, they want natural light. It's something every buyer wants. Open the window treatments, even remove them if you have to. The valances are okay because your light can still come in, but keep the blinds open during the showings, which is really important. It always makes the room appear larger. We say less is more, so less stuff in a room creates more vision for someone. So that's very helpful. Next slide, please. So on the second topic is important things to look for in a realtor. So make sure that you know somebody who is very knowledgeable of the area. They know, kind of where the parks are, the highways, shopping, restaurants, coffee shops, libraries. Just make sure that they understand, because it's not just about your home, obviously, but it's about the town that you live in. So that's really smart to have somebody that's not from out of the area, that doesn't even know how to price the home. Experience with the type of home. There's a big difference in a condo and a co-op, and the documents and what they need to facilitate it to get to the closing. So make sure that they have experience with those, working with stock certificates, if it's a co-op, or the prospectus, or there's certain questions that need to be asked with the management company. They should have knowledge of the current trends in the market. Now we're in a very hot market, to understand, how the dynamics of how to negotiate and get you the highest price for your home. Somebody who is a seasoned agent, has awards and designations, and has been out there doing this a long time, because every situation is different on, there's no one same situation on selling a home. You should definitely check out their reviews online and see how other people have followed up and worked with them, and how their experiences. Find out the history of their past sales. Have they sold in this area? Have they sold many co-ops or condos or multifamily homes? And just see what kind of history and how many sales they've done. That's really helpful. Remember, you're giving them one of your biggest assets in their care. So you want to make sure that you're going to get the same top dollar that you should, and that they're going to take care of you. What is their marketing plan, the exposure for that? A lot of times agents will come in and say, well, it's not just about putting a sign in the ground and putting a lockbox on and putting you on MLS, but what else are you going to do for me? Like my company puts homes on your listing would be on over 700 websites. Find out about the company and what they're offering you. They should have a knowledge of mortgage. Why does that matter to a seller? Well, because there's different type of loan products, and depending on the type of commodity that your home is, if you have a home that needs work, you are not going to go in there with the VA loan, because that's a whole different bank appraisal. So you can hedge your bet. If you, as a listing agent, I can know, okay, well, this type of loan product is not going to be acceptable with this home. So understanding that whole process, it just eliminates getting the seller an offer and potentially almost taking their home off the market and losing something that, you know, another offer that could have been a better process for them. They should have a network of resources for movers, title company, attorneys, plumbers, or anything that you need to help you facilitate it to get to the closing. Make sure they're going to give you constant communication throughout the process. Many times I'll go on listing presentations that I said, why they tell me that they just had their home listed with somebody else. They just never followed up with them. So make sure there's a follow-up plan, that they're checking back with all the agents to make sure that they are, you know, what the feedback was on, you know, what the buyers thought about the home. Next slide, please. You can, next slide, please. So what's important to sell a home today? Technology. You know, your home today, it's not like many years ago when I first started. We used to take out these big books that were like telephone books. Today, your first showing is, of course, it's through the internet. So that's really important. Social media exposure, again, see, you know, if they're putting you on Instagram, Facebook, it's got to be the local social media as well as the worldwide. The web exposure, like I said, we are worldwide. So what other markets are they targeting with all your, we have a relocation department. So we hit all of those other exposures. Target online advertising. We do boosting ads through Facebook and try to, we go on and drive the traffic right for your area, zip code, and for your price point. We're driving the traffic there. We do a neighborhood reach. We do mailings. We also do print advertising. And since COVID, we have the ability to sell remotely, which is really interesting. So now we can go to a home if the buyer is not from the area and they can't get to the home. We're in such a hot market today. We'll go to the home as an agent, we'll preview it, and we can do a FaceTime. And we've gotten offers in just like that. So there's different ways that we how to sell a home. We do property tours and a professional photography shoot. We also do, we take the professional photos and we have a narrative going through the home, and we put your home on TV on Sunday mornings at home in the tri-state area. So it's really great exposure for you, just additional exposure. And we do print advertising as well. Not many companies do print advertising anymore. Next slide, please. Photos. It's really important. Photos is like your most important, it's the first impressions of the listing. So try to arrange it on a sunny day. I know my photographer, if it's not so sunny, he'll help with getting some blue skies in there, which is great. When the photographer comes, make sure all the lights are on in the home. Make sure you remove all the items on the bathroom counters, even on the kitchen counters. Try to make less, take off the drain board and the dish soap and so forth. Make it really clean. And remove the cars from the driveway. I just saw a listing that they had 2 cars in the driveway and they put it on MLS. It was all over their websites. It just didn't look too good. Stage any decks, pool area, maybe put the umbrella up, to make it look very inviting. So like I said, photos are the first impression of a home on the internet. And with the marketing, you want to make sure it's done professionally. Next slide. So give me a call if you have any questions. And I know Brenda's going to take some questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ladies. Wow, really great information. It's funny, I was writing down my questions. So let's open it up, folks, to our audience. If you've got any questions, please type it out in the Q&A box or the chat box. So I want to start with one of my questions. And this is actually for you, Laura. When you were talking about measuring your space, do you suggest drawing a floor plan? So in other words, for the movers, would it make it easier for each room to have a floor plan so that they have a better idea of where the items go?
I think that's a brilliant suggestion. Absolutely, yes. And I think also you should label every box similarly so that the mover knows where to put it when they get to the new destination. So yes, floor plan's a great idea. Thank you for suggesting it.
Okay. And let me see, because I know we've got some questions here. In reference to packing, what do you pack first?
I pack fragile things first. And I make sure that I have plenty of newspapers, or you can buy blank newsprint. And I try and be environmentally friendly. I'm not such a big fan anymore of bubble wrap, but there's all kinds of stuff you can buy that will help you. I wrap the fragile first. But often those are things that you're not going to need. You can afford to keep them somewhere waiting. You know, right. I try and prioritize things. How often do you use them? So the fancy china, if you're taking it with you, then wrap it first because you're probably not going to use it in the next few months.
Right, okay. Joanne, can you talk about the capital improvements? For example, is putting up a fence considered a capital improvement?
Yes, because you're increasing the value of your home a little bit. You know, it's not as much as if you did a central air conditioning or a new furnace, but you know, that all helps. You know, so you should really keep, first of all, you should keep it for like warranty. You know, if something happens or, you know, they need to go back to the company for something. But, you know, you talk about fences, which is a great question. Make sure you have a survey or something. If you put up a fence, I have many clients who call in when they're getting ready to sell their home. It's encroaching on somebody else's property. So something like that, you know, you have to make sure you have a survey and know if you're within the setbacks. But something like, you know, fence, anything you do is helpful. Typically, they say something over 2,500, which I'm sure the fence, of course, depending on how much you put in.
So on that same
that's a capital improvement.
Like a shed, anything like that is considered a capital improvement?
Yes, and if you're putting a shed up, if it's, there's certain size, each town has a different requirement, but you might even need a C of O for a shed.
Really?
You know, but not if it's a plastic one. If it's a permanent one, yes, you would need, you know, yeah.
Okay, okay.
Windows, stuff, you know, roof, all that stuff, yes.
Laura, can you share the name of the company that takes the t-shirts to make a throw?
Oh, sure. There's a couple of companies. Campus Quilts is one. Project Repat, R-E-P-A-T, projectrepat.com. And then third one is memorystitch.com.
Great. And this person actually wrote, it was Adrian, what a great gift idea, and it gets it out of the house. So true. Mm-hmm. This is for Laura. What do I look for in a moving company?
Oh, reputation. There are so many different websites now that will give reviews, and I really think that that's very important. How long have they been in business? Are they fully licensed and bonded? And reputation is everything. If you have friends who are moving, if you're not asking your organizer or a realtor, then for recommendations, then ask friends who've had positive experiences, and the crews that people employ change. So a recent recommendation is worth more than a long distance recommendation. But I'm sure Joanne also has a Rolodex.
Yes.
full of people that we recommend.
Okay. Now, I know this is a good question. I know you touched upon this before, and this is for you, Joanne. My house is 90 years old, and the basement is not finished and worn and water damaged. What do I do about that?
It has water damage?
Yeah.
I would definitely recommend, I have a water a company that just deals with drainage and how to get the water out of the home. So you can have to, because obviously you have to stop the problem from it coming in. You might need a sump pump, you might need a drain. Or maybe it's some other leak from maybe a hot water tank, depends on where it's coming from. So definitely, you know, have it checked out and have a water person come in to see where it's coming. It might be a crack in the foundation. It could be a numerous amount of things, but that could lead to mold and health issues and other things.
And let me ask you something. At what point, Joanne, do you recommend painting, whether it's inside or outside? Do you know what I mean?
Paint, fresh paint, a coat of fresh paint goes a long way.
Okay.
Always recommend paint, always. I even tell a lot of sellers, if you have carpets for a long time and you know there's hardwoods underneath, just pick up the carpets. Even if you don't want to do the floors, let the buyer see you have hardwood floors under there, because it definitely bears you more money just to do paint and just show the floors. It's
even on
really
the
helpful.
outside of the house?
Yeah, if it's, well, it depends on how bad it is. If it's peeling and chipping, you know, then yes, I would definitely consider something like that.
Okay. And folks, we have time for one more question. So for all my guests, by the way, Adrian says, excellent presentation, thank you. And I agree. And I want to say, ladies, there's so much really great information that I think anyone who's preparing, they're thinking about moving, whether it's to an assisted living, downsizing, moving cross country, moving across the street. All this information is great to know and be prepared before you move. Is there anything else that you ladies want to tell the audience before we go?
I had one more thing to add to the moving company question. If you're planning to move long distance, different companies offer different packages, and long distance is a whole other ball game in moving. Don't hire someone that doesn't ordinarily move long distance to do a long distance move. And if you're moving high-end valuable furniture or artwork, really make sure you have very good insurance, make sure they have good insurance, and make sure that they're accustomed. Ask them questions like, how do you propose moving this piece of artwork or this piece of furniture, so that you can ascertain whether they know what they're doing. Otherwise, you don't want them touching your stuff.
Great, too. Great. Okay, thank you. I want to thank our presenters for tonight, Joanne and Laura. I also want to thank you all for joining us. And my colleague, Christiane, who I know, folks, you don't ever see her on these events, but she is in the background making sure that everything runs smoothly. So thank you, Chris. And folks, if you'd like to learn more information about the Kensington, please call us at 914-390-0080, or feel free to go to our website at www.thekensingtonwhiteplains.com. And please stay until the very end. We will put up an end slide that will have the contact information of our speakers. And remember, we'll also send a follow-up email with that contact information. So thank you, everybody. Enjoy your evening. Enjoy the wonderful summer. Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda. I appreciate it.
Thanks. Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Good night.